Hello, beautiful light-filled souls. Thank you for joining me for today's show. I have Dale McCarthy here, who is an animal communicator and intuitive, and I know we're going to have a ton of fun in this conversation. Please check the links below for her links, and also I have an upcoming summit in July. I'm so excited to bring together speakers from around the world who will talk about how to apply spirituality to your lives and how to feel more empowered. So I have narcissistic abuse specialist, life coach, breakthrough life coaches, Lisa Romano. I have doctors who are also near-death experiencers. I have so many different people talking at this summit, many different YouTubers who have amazing channels. So please check out the speakers, and a lot of things will be pre-recorded. I'd love for you to join, but if you've not subscribed to my channel, please do so. Hi, Dale. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and one of the first questions that I have for you is I have some clients who work with animals, and they're in fields where they're already working with them and they want to develop these skills of communicating with animals. What are your tips for people who are in that developmental stage?
Well, what I always tell clients that I do sessions for is they should always be talking to their own pets. That animals get communication from us, even not even just verbal, but they actually get our thoughts, whether we think them out loud or so we think them or say them out loud. So they get anything that involves or affects them. And so it's always good to talk to them and just explain things like what's going on. And, if you're planning on moving, to talk to them all the time and look at them because they will communicate back. Some animals are very expressive with their faces. Some will make noises. Some will do movements, but to communicate with them as if you would another human, because they do get everything. It's amazing what they will pick up.
And you say on your website that animal communication can help develop or can help people understand the personality of their pets. A lot of people have an idea of them, but how are people surprised by, oh, I didn't know my pet thought this or experienced this?
Well, there's so many. I've been doing this for 18 years, so there's so many examples. But the first one that comes to my head is I was dealing this one gentleman contacted me, and I don't want to know anything about the animal except the name, age, and sex. If it's they know the breed, that's great, but not necessary. I don't want photos or questions ahead of time because I want everything from the animal's perspective, not the person and persons, because they'll have their own viewpoint. And so this one gentleman contacted me on his cat. I had no idea, but the cat let me know that it felt like it was a grumpy old man. And he just wanted that guy to let him be. He said, you know what, no matter what you try, we are just going to be roommates. And he said, so, and he said, we each have our own idiosyncrasies, so let me be the way I am. And, and the analogy I got was like the Odd Couple. And I don't know if you remember that old show, but so the guy was laughing. He goes, oh my God. He said, I got him from rescue and he's a bit older, but I never thought that this is it. And I said, yeah, so if you can just give him this home, he'll be happy. He doesn't need anything else. And he was surprised by that. And another quick example I'll give you is I was doing a session for 3 cats, and one of the cats told me that she felt like Cinderella. I'm like, okay, this is bizarre. And so when I was writing the notes down, because I prep before I do the call to get the animal's thoughts, and I went, well, I'm just going with this. I don't know what it means. And so I said to the woman that I was doing the session for, I said, I think that this isn't anything to do with a prince. It's got to do with how she feels treated by the other 2 cats. Like they're their evil stepsisters. And she goes, oh my God, they are her siblings. And I gave her away for a while. And when she came back, they were attacking her and all this stuff. So this is where they're surprised how the animals feel.
How interesting. And that makes me think that a lot of pet owners might have one type of animal and then they get another personality and they want that next pet to be like their former pet, to be super loving or want a lot of attention or a lot of touch. And that example of the cat, he was healthy in his own right. He just didn't want that type of relationship.
Yeah. And that's what happened once. I was dealing with a woman who had a cat who's just adorable. And she went, and when it passed away, she went and got 2 rescue cats, and she had to take both because they were siblings. And she just said to me, well, they're not as affectionate as I'd like. And I said, you need to talk to them to tell them what you'd like. They've never lived an environment that you're giving them, so they're not used to love and affection. So you have to explain to them what you're looking for. And it's just amazing what animals do. Like, you know, as you were talking about, is how to give yourself a better life and empower yourself and all these wonderful things. And animals actually come into our lives to help us in our own life lessons and growth. And if we pay attention to what they provide us, they will help us on our path. And they will help us with emotional issues such as, you know, divorce or abuse or things like that, as well as health issues. And so they're just these wonderful beings that we would never expect that can actually give us so much in our life.
You might like this story, but I talked with a man who had a near-death experience, and in his near-death experience, he saw all these souls of puppies, and these puppies were so excited to come here. And then he saw what they were going to experience: abuse and neglect and early death and all kind of horrible things. And he ran up to the puppies and said, don't go down there. I don't want you to go down there. Just stay here in heaven. You know, like, it's better. And they said, we can't wait to get down there, and we can't wait to bring joy in the ways that we bring joy. And that really affected me. I mean, that's beautiful. Do you see pets almost as if they have soul contracts with us?
Oh yeah, and this is the thing too, is that I do sessions and for people where their animals have passed, because they're still with us in the soul energy. And it's beautiful because they want to share messages. And that's why I don't want questions ahead of time, because, for example, the session I did for this woman yesterday, her pet had passed, and it told her what would help her to get over her grief, but also all these emotions she was going through. And so this is where, by the times, what I do is I tell them all the information the pets have shared with me first. And I say, okay, now let's go through your questions. She goes, oh my God, you don't understand how much lighter I feel, because you've answered everything I want to know before I even asked it. And I said, well, that's what your loving animal wants to share with you. It knows what will help you to have relief and comfort and be able to move on, because they're in our life when they're with us to care for us, and when they're in the soul energy form, they still care for us.
Oh, so what's your best tips for people who are, one, going through grief? You know, they're wondering about when to put a pet down, or they've lost a pet and they're just in that deep grief. What do you tell people, your best tips?
So the best thing for when a pet is has health issues is, I always say that understand it's the same as another human, is that even though we might be responsible for children or other people in our lives, is that everybody is really in control of themselves. It's their choices. So, you know, a friend of mine, their cat passed away, unfortunately, at 3 years old. It was hit by a car. But I explained to him that the cat made a choice. It isn't your fault. It isn't your blame. Don't have grief, because this cat came in. I said, in the 3 years it was with you, boy, it did a lot of stuff. And I said, it helped you. And they said, oh my God, it did. It saved our relationship. And who would think a cat would do that? And when it left, it felt it had done its work. And the timing was that their daughter was moving out, and so it wouldn't be there to take care of it. So the cat was giving them freedom. It felt, I've done my work and I'm going. So the thing to understand is that it's an animal's choice of who it comes to, because they choose us, right? Who they come to, what they're meant and their purpose in our life, and also when they're going to leave. And so even though we sometimes have to make the final decision, it's actually always a human being or an animal's choice of when they go. And so to know that we really don't have the power over another being, that it's them, and they come to us for whatever time they're meant to be here.
And how do you counsel people who have very sick pets and are uncertain about when to put them down and when to keep helping them live?
Well, and this is a tough one, because vets are amazing, right? And they will look at the x-rays and the scans, but they have to be non-emotional. They can't take emotion into it, because they have to tell the people. And so I have worked with people where the vet has said it's time to let them go. And I say to them, you actually know your animal's determination. You know its will and its strength and what it wants to do. So sometimes I say, you know, you will know, it will look at you, it will give you signs. And so sometimes I, you know, like depending how far along they are, I say, you know, like bring the dog home or cat home and have it and just see what you feel. And in all the years of doing this, there's only been 5 times where I felt that the animal was ready to go at the time we were doing the session. The other times it's always not quite ready. And it was interesting because I was doing a cat recently. I always say the animal, not the humans. A cat recently, and the vet had said it was time to let it go. And I said, I'm sorry, it's not ready. I said, it's eating properly. I said, this is what I get. It's eating properly, it's healthy, it's happy. And they said, it is. And I said, so we don't want to let it go. And I said, well, how long was that? And they said, 8 months ago. And they showed me the cat, and oh my God, it had this huge growth on the side of its face, but they don't know they have that. So it wasn't ready.
Interesting.
So it's to tell the people, go by your own gut instinct, trust your intuition, know it, because there's no one that knows your pet better than you do.
Yeah, and apparently pets have a contract with us to be in our lives for a particular reason, so we should know them better than most people. How interesting.
And I will have some, like I was working with one woman, I said, oh my God, this animal has stayed longer than it's supposed to because it's here for you. And she said, yeah, the vet told me not to do this operation because it wasn't going to last. She said, but I know that I'm going to be going through something and I need it. And so when it came out of the surgery, she had been diagnosed with cancer. And while it was still under sedation, she said, I held its cheeks and I said, I need you. It lasted another 3 years.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. These stories are amazing, and I'm sure you have a ton of them. What do you say to people who are really confused by timing of when to get a pet? So like, I'll just give myself as an example. I'm not sure. I'm like waiting for information. I probably want a dog from a shelter, but I don't feel that there's a energetic bond or connection yet, that it's time. How do you counsel people about when it's the right time? Do they just know when their pet has arrived?
It'll happen when it's meant to happen. So what I always do is I trust the universe, right? Is you just, because as you know, there's much more out there than many humans can see, right? This viewpoint of ours is very limited in the human form, but if we open up to all these other wonderments out there of the universe and the non-physical world, is that it actually will take care of us. And so what I always do is I say to people, you know what, is just say like, I trust that you will bring in whatever I need when I need it, and just be in that place and it will come. And it's amazing because I do sessions with people. I said, oh my God, you don't even like dogs and you ended up with a dog. Or another one, when one of her animals had passed away, all of a sudden there's a cat that shows up in their neighborhood and someone's saying, does someone want to adopt it? And she goes, no, I got such grief. And then she said, well, I'll maybe I should, maybe this is a sign. And she was going through conflict. And I said, this is when it happens, is when you're supposed to have it. So just trust.
Yeah. And here's another question. I'm intuitive as well. And one time I lived in a place where there was a ghost cat, and I would hear this cat like come down the stairs, and I asked it, why are you still here? And it was like, oh, I love this place. I love the balcony up here. And I like to remind people that live here, it's okay to get a cat. You can get a cat. Cats are pretty easy. And so she was trying to remind me that a cat was possible, but I didn't get a cat at that time. But have you encountered like actual ghost cats or animals that live in places?
Yeah, I haven't encountered those specifically, but I know that they come back. Like, this is the thing, people think that they can reincarnate and come back in another animal. But I always say to them, I said, that they're a one of, but also too is that when they pass on and they go into the soul form energy, is they're still around us. Until we pass on, guess who's going to greet us? But in the meantime, they still watch over us. And what they do is they'll bring in other pets, or they'll bring in people, they'll bring in stuff for us. And so to this cat, I look at it and say, this cat's doing a lot of work on this in the physical world, on trying to get people to understand, like, hey, this is what you need in your life or should have, because they do, like, they're not just in our lives for unconditional love and companionship. They are the most amazing mentors, teachers. You know, they show us and take us through our life lessons. And so this is where I love that a ghost cat's there, because it's just sort of saying, hey, yeah, like, you need to know that we're important in your life. And for whoever goes into that house next is like, yeah, this is what you should have, and just keeping that energy going, because they can be in more places than one.
So how did this evolve for you? I know that you worked in the corporate world, and, you know, when did these abilities, or when did the moment take over when you were like, okay, I have to change careers and I have to do this?
So I knew when I was younger I would get thoughts of things, and then you just sort of let it go as society gets you into these things. And when I would just have things come to me, and what was very fortunate is that I just accepted it. So I remember being in my first job, and within 3 years I was promoted 6 times, and I would always get these things coming to me, and I just go, thanks. And I wouldn't take credit for it. I just, if people say, well, where'd you come up with that? I go, I don't know, but let's run with it. Or this is where it was. And but I didn't actually utilize it enough because it was kind of a scary thing. And so I just let it drop for a while. And then I started to get more things. And I ran into this wonderful woman who said, well, Dale, you've got to go with this. And she said, just start practicing. And so I started off doing spirit guide work, right? Because I was in the media for 20 years, and I had the respect of the city I lived in, and I was in a cross-border station. So I have 3 cities, and so it was like I couldn't say anything what I did. And then all of a sudden, I was on a workshop because, as you can see, I have horses, but the workshop was not for riding horses, but how to use your own strength and power, your energy, to be able to move a horse without talking to it or touching it. So it was just learning how to utilize your energy. So of 15 people in this workshop, I was the only one actually that had a horse because it wasn't really anything to do with it. The woman was up from Arizona. She's written several books and works with horses to be able to heal people. And when I was there, I started to get things. And I thought I was going crazy. And so when everyone was telling what they got, like, hey, I want to work with this horse because he's cute or nuzzled me, and I'm getting information. And I was a bit scared. And she said, Dale, this is amazing. Keep going with it. And over the 3 days of the workshop, more stuff and more stuff. And she said, you're one of the best animal communicators I've worked with. And I said, I'm a what? I'm a what? So,
and I'm curious, what did you work in the media?
Oh, I was a television producer. I worked in TV first as marketing and promotions, and then I started again. Things came to me, and I started producing features.
Oh, cool. Cool.
Yeah.
So this is the story of leaving all that to communicate with animals.
But the thing too is I couldn't talk. So I feel like I was in the closet, but I was in the closet for my intuitive work because I couldn't say anything. Because at that time, you got to think like, this is 20 years ago, right? When I first started, 28 years ago, when I first started, is I couldn't talk about it because people would think that I was nuts and I couldn't ruin my reputation. So I just sort of held it in the background and wouldn't talk about it and just sort of answer calls. And I had to tell my on-air host because sometimes we'd be out and I get a call and he goes, what's that about? And I go, oh, nothing. But I really wasn't comfortable with it either because I wanted to be accepted. So it wasn't until things started to get bigger and more accepted, as you know, more things are more people realize there's so much out there, where I felt about 8 years ago that I can do this full time.
Beautiful. And what was that change like of just stepping into that intuitive realm and living in that way?
Well, it was scary because I remember going to a conference with my husband and I would, before when I'd say I worked for a TV station and they'd say, what'd you do? And I said, well, produce this. And, I've interviewed, artists, for example, we'd, do someone like a Beyonce or John Bon Jovi and then meet them or U2 or things like that. And then I go to the concert. And so everyone was interested in my job. So it was really interesting to come up with a new way to describe myself because my identity was attached to the TV job. And then I went into magazines when the station was sold. And so it was just something I was always part of. And so to who am I? And I remember going to a conference with him and someone said, well, what do you do? And I'd written up a statement for myself. And she had horses. She still had horses, and she was a competitive jumper. I thought, oh, she'll get it. So I said to her, well, I'm an animal communicator. She walked away.
Wow.
And so it was something where I just had to trust. And I remember the first pet show I spoke at, and there was 25,000 people over 2 days. It was like putting myself out there, and it was scarier than anything, and it's just interesting because one of the people that was at the pet show, I had done a session for them in 2013, and they just contacted me, and I just did a session for them last week, 8 years later. And she said, I met you at the show. And so it's just
Wow.
something where, but because, and her husband was so neat, he said, she told me she wanted to do this when she saw me at the show. I'm a skeptic. I said no. Then she finally convinced me. He said, we did the session in 2013. You just had me so, he said, you just blew me away. And he said, that's why when now with the dogs, now I had to contact you again. So yeah, it's, as you know, it's just something where we just have to be in a place of faith, belief, and trust all the time.
Yeah, and as you were saying that, it came to me, I don't know if you'd want to be a part of it, but it seems like we need more shows about animal communicators out there. Like this needs to be televised. This is, everybody loves their pets so much. And this is like a heartwarming, beautiful, therapeutic experience. And, I think of shows like The Dog Whisperer, but we could do so much more. And I think this time period is really opening up so much people's minds around ideas like this. So I don't know, there might be shows about it.
Well, and this is funny you bring this up, is so the difference between like Cesar Millan, for example, he's a behaviorist. So he takes a dog and says, this is what you need to do. What I do is a lot of times even a rescue dog, it's been through stuff. So they need to be treated a little differently, or you understand their background more. And so I work with behaviors or trainers, right? But I just give some perspective on maybe what they've been through or their attitude or what their human's going through, why all of a sudden a behavior will change in an animal is because something that's going on with the human and the animal's trying to showcase or highlight to them either a health issue or something they're not dealing with, that an animal will do it. So, and so funny is because when I started this 8 years ago, because I could video or shoot stuff because of being in a station, I had some video shot, and I actually had someone come up and want to pitch a show. And we did quite well in getting ahead because he has to go to different networks. And we actually nearly had it. I panicked. I wasn't ready. And that's what I mean. It comes down to us believing in ourselves and knowing and just having where, sometimes our own thoughts are what limit us. So letting that go and understand the power of words and the power of our thoughts. So I wasn't ready at the time. So unfortunately, the budgets were cut and they didn't add new shows.
So my next question, since we both have horses behind us,
Yeah.
they obviously mean something to us. I grew up with a horse, and this is a gift from someone I gave a reading to. But how is it different communicating with horses versus cats and dogs? And how is it similar? Like, how do animals themselves, how are they different in their communications?
I started off with horses, and the horses were amazing in that I feel like they give me permission, and it's sort of this, they're just so authentic in the way they are. And they trained me to be able to do this. But what I found is that all animals, whether they're alive or they've passed on, they all have something to share. And so over the years, someone will say, well, do you do this animal? And I go, I don't know, but let's try it. So I've done a cow recently, 2,500 pound cow, donkeys, asses, chickens, a lizard, rabbits, turtle. And so it's just these things where it's like, oh my, I don't know, right? But because the reason for these animals is that each of them are helping their human, is that it's amazing. Like some will have more to share because they're more involved. To me, horses are just so authentic that you have to be congruent 100%. Your words have to match what you're thinking and feeling because they won't let you get away with it. Dogs and cats and other animals will let you get away with it a bit more. They know, but they won't call you on it.
Is that why children often do so well with horses? Is that because they're in that authentic state? Because I was a child when I had my horse and I felt like we were just one. She treated me with such care where she wouldn't treat someone else with the same tenderness.
Because where we are when we're younger is, before probably we hit our teens, is that we are in this place where we are just who we are. And that's what it's so beautiful to have a horse when you're younger because it helps to develop us in a different way. And I think I mentioned this to you before, is that they have such strength and power, but they can be so gentle. Like, so many people are scared of them because they're so big, but little do they know how caring, and some people think, oh, well, they don't love you. Like, oh my God, my horse would put his head on my shoulder and I just hug him, and he would help me with friends. Like, I just say to friends once, I said, I don't know why, but you need to see my horse. And he would tell me, let me know by his body language what was going on with the person. They are brilliant.
And how is this communicated? So other people who are picking up on information, do they send you images? I sometimes feel like my animals have communicated through telepathy, through their eyes, like they'll just send unconditional love, or they send their thoughts.
So they have different ways, and people, every intuitive does it differently. For me, I get thoughts. And because I've been doing this so long, I don't question any thoughts I get, even though they might seem bizarre, such as a Cinderella. But I get them, and they describe themselves, and I just write the thoughts. But they'll also give me, like I said, analogies, like, the Cinderella or the Odd Couple. Or I had one that thought he was like Matthew McConaughey type dog, right? Just like the way he walked and the way his attitude and stuff. So they'll give me that. But I also get images. And so I get visualizations, but I also get, which I am trying to work on because it's harder, I will get things that are going on with them. And so but one day I was having body issues of feeling, like my stomach was a mess. I was in the washroom all the time. So I asked them, was there something going on with the dog? And they said, yes. And then I will also get where sometimes I'll get anxious or nervous, and I'll say to the person, are you this way? So, and I was doing a session for a girl the other day, and all of a sudden my throat started to constrict, and I said, and we were talking about how her dog had been greeted by her father. Like I said, it's a man, and I described him who's greeted her dog when it passed. She said, oh my God, that's my father. And then my throat started to constrict. And I went, I'm having a problem talking. And she said, oh my God, that's what happened to my father. He was diagnosed and then passed away 5 weeks later, and he started to lose his voice. And so this is where I also get feelings and sensations.
Yeah, and as I do mediumship work, so when I get people's loved ones, a lot of times they'll send me, if it's a pain in their heart, maybe they died of a heart attack, if it's a brain issue, I'll feel it in different parts of my body. And how do you, like I usually tell the spirit, that's enough, I got it.
I try and do protection for myself ahead, and I don't normally get people that are passed on. It's something I've always wanted to do. It's just only probably happened like 5 to 10 times over the 18 years, but it's because whoever I'm dealing with, the person I'm doing the session for, whoever's there is trying to find whatever way to get through. But it's something I've always wished I could do. But I also sometimes say, like, okay, please, like I get the stuff, I get it, now let me be fine, because it's hard, like when one day I was just exhausted, and it was this and it was an appointment I was doing early in the morning. I'm going, why am I just so beat up and tired? So I said to the woman, I said, do you feel this? And she said, yeah. And I said, okay, that's enough. Like, I need to go do this, right? But yeah. So it's a variety of things I get.
What do you see pets doing in the afterlife? I'm a near-death experiencer, so people always want to know what their loved ones are, quote, doing over there. So what do you see pets doing in the afterlife?
So this is where too, is that they're back in their physical body. They look at their physical body where they're healthy. And so for some animals, it's different, because there was one where I said, oh my God, this dog is running as I said, wish I could say, but as fast as the wind or something. There's a term I said. She says, oh my God, that's how it ran down this side. And I said, but it's also there with another dog that's this. And she said, oh, that's its best buddy that passed before. So they're over with our family, or, anyone or other animals that are passed on. They're greeted by them. And while they're there, though, they're still with us. And they send us, signs to say, hey, I'm still there, in dreams, or it could be noises or moving things to let us know they're still with us. So they're still caring for us and making sure we're okay. And as you probably get too, is that I feel, I've been saved from a couple of fatal accidents because of my non-physical family watching over me still and making sure that because I'm not meant to go yet.
Wow, that's beautiful. And like you, I don't get animals too often, or, it's different from you. You get people sometimes. Sometimes I'll get an animal in a reading, and this one woman's dog, I saw him running down a hill and then splashing in water, and he couldn't wait to just run back up that hill, and he just did it over and over and over again. He was like, look, Mom, see, I can stay underwater longer now. And he was just so excited about it. And that's what he did in life. She sent me all these beautiful pictures of in life. This beautiful dog just ran down the hill and was such a great swimmer, and he could just do it all day. So he got to do what he liked in heaven and just continue doing it.
But don't you find when you do it too, is that it's because you are meant, whatever that person needs, even though you're doing it for another reason, is that it is so imperative that that being, whether it's fur or human, comes through and gets in touch with that person. And so I just go sometimes, I go, okay. And this one gentleman said to me, well, I'd like to talk to my mother. I said, unless she wants to come through, there's nothing I can do. So, you're going to, but in the meantime, we'll do your animal. And then, it's just something that as a conduit, I'm not in control of what takes place at all. I'm just the vessel that they utilize me to be able to get through them. So that's what I say to people is that, I never know what's going to take place. Because sometimes it can be 100% about the dog or the cat or the animal. And then other times it can be, I was doing a session for someone from the Yukon and it was probably 20% about the animal and 80% about him. Oh. But that's what the animal's in his life for, is to help him on his way, which is giving him suggestions of things to do to help his life move forward.
I'm sure that does happen frequently. Yeah. So what do you think of the different Instagram accounts? I don't know if you're familiar with them, like What About Bunny, the dog that's learning to speak. And there's a few others. One dog is kind of amusing because it does exactly what we think a dog would do. It's like treat, 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 treat. I'm like, oh no, I wouldn't want to teach my dog that. Walk, 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 walk.
Well, and this is where sometimes I look at it and go, oh my God, I can't believe it, right? And I just sit there and say, why are you doing this? And like even one Instagram account I was following is that this woman dresses up her dog all the time, right? But what I always believe is that the animals are in the human's life, so this is what the person wants to do. The animal will do it. Sometimes it won't though. Like sometimes it's going like, you asked me to do that. No way am I going to do it. But most of the time they're there to do whatever keeps the person happy.
So as far as speaking, the What About Bunny is getting pretty existential in some of her posts. And I'm really amazed by this. She'll go, dog, why? So she'll ask, like something in completely existential. That's really interesting. Do they think in terms of that? Or do you think that they just get a reaction from their owner and they're like, wow, my owner is so pleased that I said that?
Yeah, I think that's more. And it's also too, I sometimes wonder is, and you might be able to answer this better than I can, is that every once in a while I will get it where I was doing a session for this woman quite a few years ago. And actually, I think I have them on this website, is that the cat was with her in a previous life in a relationship, but it came back to be with her in this lifetime, and it goes, what the, I'm a cat? And I said, this cat, like I say, feels like it's a human. It sits at your table and, like for a dining room table. And I said, and I said, oh my God. And I said, when you and your husband are together, it's like, the woman laughs, says, oh, we have to close the bedroom door because we can't have, the cat doesn't want to see us do anything. And so this is where sometimes I feel that a dog that's able to do this is because it was, a human in a previous lifetime comes back to this person because this is what the person needs. Wow. And possibly doing these tricks because it is like a human in a cat form dog form that's going to, or it just needs to do what the human wants.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I do love that account, the What About Bunny. She'll notice things, and it's fascinating how much dogs keep track of us. Like what she'll do if she's like, Dad's sleeping, or there's a cat outside, or she just wants to communicate that she understands what's going on in the house, which is interesting. I mean, we know they do, but it's interesting that they have the words for it.
And it's like with my dog when I was growing up with my parents, the family dog, I should say, is that it would always let me know, or us know, who is coming by the way it would bark, run around, look at us, let us know if it was family member, if it was a friend, a delivery person, at that point, milkman, delivery man or something, or stranger. So we always knew. And actually, the dog saved me because my parents had a pool in the backyard, and I fell in, I think, when I was 5. And by the way that he was letting everybody know, he was just like, he was letting everybody in the neighborhood know, you got to get here fast. So they are amazing on making us, keeping us safe, but also letting us know what we need to do.
I know, and I really love these stories, and I bet a lot of people will post stories like this below in the comments. But there are so many stories of dogs who have saved people's lives, and they know. So I had a Dutch Shepherd at one time, and she was good off leash, and we were just walking around the apartment complex, and we'd left the garage door open. Well, someone was stealing things from our garage. This dog, handymen and maintenance people came in the house all the time. She was just pure love. Every hair on her body stood up, and she went into full attack mode. And she grabbed this guy and he was like, "Get your dog off of us!" And he had her stuff, and her hands were like, "No, like, get out of our garage!" And so then he dropped the stuff and ran off. But I knew that she knew the difference. The energy was, it was not good around this person, and so she went into it. I didn't know that she'd do that. And I think people who have had their homes broken into, there's so many stories of dogs that have jumped out the window, chased the person until the police got there. I mean, it's really fascinating.
Yeah, and it's also interesting too, because just on that too, is they pick up stuff, and that's what I said earlier. I was working with this couple, and I said, "So there's an addition to the household." And they said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I'm assuming a baby, but you tell me, because I'm just writing down what they said." And they said, "Well, but," I said, "Are you pregnant?" She said, "No, we're trying, but we're not telling family or friends or anybody, because we don't want to be asked all the time, like, well, are you, or are you?" So she said, "We're not going to wait until, like, we are pregnant and 3 months along." I said, "So are you thinking or talking, worried between your husband and you were discussing how it's going to affect the dogs?" And she said, "Well, yeah, because there are babies, how they're going to feel about having a baby, and they sleep with us and the baby in the bedroom." And I said, "And you're concerned?" And she goes, "Oh my God, I have so much going on in me, my emotions about, what am I doing? Is it fair to them?" And so this is where they know everything, right? When it involves or affects them, but they also know get what we're feeling. So if we all of a sudden, you see that and they get it, it's like, I'm going to protect her. I'm going to protect her stuff. Like they are there for us 100% and more.
What's funny, and this is my ex-husband, but he was very concerned about the stuff. So it was probably, she was doing it for him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. What do you tell the people who go through divorces and one person, and people need to know this, if one person microchips the pet legally, they get to take that pet. So it's in their name.
And it's interesting too, because people sometimes worry and say, well, is this fair to our pets, right? Because we're splitting up. But what I always believe is that an animal comes into our life for, like, same as humans, a reason, a season, a lifetime. So sometimes when it is like, even where, a child moves on and had the pet and they have to leave the pet at home, it's because the animal's meant to be with us. And we need to trust in that. Even when they pass on early, is an animal comes into our life wherever it has meant to be there. So as long as you make sure that you're not pulling the animal apart like you are with kids, and, like, using it as bait, or, using it as a threat or whatever, is that the animal will be okay. And people also say, well, will it miss me? How's it going to be when I'm not there? We also have to understand that animals look at time differently. And so when people say, oh, there's separation anxiety, go, no, that's us that has the separation anxiety. We just put it on there. An animal doesn't know the time, days, months, right? They are so much better off than humans because they're not so limited. And so they don't sit there and say, oh my God, where's my human gone? Where's my human gone? Where's my gone? But when they see you, they're so happy to see you. And so there's cases where an animal has been lost for a couple of years and it sees a human. At first it's going like, oh, I don't know who it is. And I was like, oh my God, I know who it is. But in a couple of years, it hasn't been devastated. It's gone on whatever it has. It's just where they will adapt. They're so much better than us.
Yeah, it makes me think of a pet a long time ago that, I gave to someone else to put in their car because I was going on a trip, and then I needed to put something else in. He was already so happy with the new people. And I was like, oh yeah, you're really mourning me.
And that's where we have to let go of our human perspective, because animals are so much better off. They're, as I said, they're not in their heads. So they don't think about their age. They don't think about time. They also are always in the present and the now. They are just in this thing about, and they don't live in their aches and pains. And that's when people worry about how are they doing? He's getting older. It's us that thinks that. Stop thinking it. Like, I did a dog the other day that was 18 years old. I've never seen a dog that was that old.
Wow.
But it's because it didn't have a clue how old it was. It was just continuing on because it loved its life, and it was just staying because of what its human needed.
Yeah, I also think the pet that I'm separated from that is still alive, I think she meets me in dreams just real briefly. She checks in, she sleeps a lot, and animals do sleep a lot. And so she feels still a little connected to me at the heart level. She knows I'm out there and sends her love. It's not that we're completely separated.
Well, this is what we need to understand is we're always connected. Everything's all vibrational energy based. So we're connected to them whether we're in the same place or not. And there was studies done at different, I think it was Santa Cruz University, and it's about, does a pet know? Because why all of a sudden is a pet by the door before we get home? And some people think, oh, it's been waiting all day. As you just said, animals sleep most of the time. And they sleep about 16 hours a day. They just might move around, but they don't do much. And so it's just that this dog would always be sort of ready at the door 5 minutes before the woman would get home. And they tried everything. They tried her coming home by car, bike, walking, front door, back door, different times of the day at her parents' house. And they had cameras set up. And every time the dog would all of a sudden be, awake, and there when she arrived.
So it sounds like they're teaching us about intuition in some ways because, I talk to firefighters and I have complex PTSD. Anyone who's been through a lot kind of has these extra sensory abilities of, okay, now it's time to go. Now it's time to act. Oh, there's danger. Like there's this sense. And I think animals have that. They don't question it. They just know, okay, energy's coming. This is the energy of my loved one. This is safe energy. This is, not energy that I'm aware of. Or
absolutely. And this is where animals will tell so much. And I was working with one woman the other day and I said, oh my God, your dog will decide even before it meets another dog, whether it likes it or not. And same as people. And I said, it goes, nope, not the good energy. And it's more like a horse that you have to be authentic, no facades. And so she said, well, why doesn't it like this person? I said, because I hate to say it, but this person is saying one thing, but really believes another. And, the one thing about horses is, as I was riding my horse, is that they can feel so much more than we can. So I would always know from his movement, if he tucked his butt in, like his tail in, I knew that someone was coming from behind, way far away. And then if his head went up, someone was coming to us, right, towards us. Always knew from his body language what was taking place. But they can read it. They're so much more attuned than we are.
Yeah, so we learn from them in that sense. That's beautiful. So what do you say to people who really want to develop these skills and put themselves out there? Like, what are some tips that someone can start practicing to see if they're on the right track, in developing their intuition around their pets?
Well, I think for developing the intuition, the same as you would probably say is, you just got to be in the place of trusting. Like when you get these inklings or gut feelings or whatever you have, just like I would sometimes do, write them down and then see like, oh, okay, what happened there, right? Or just think about them and remember them. But it's with getting your thoughts, and just because what the problem is most of us do is we sit there and go, well, is that real, or are we just making it up, or what might it be? And instead of questioning or judging ourselves, just go, okay, I don't know what that is, but we'll just keep that on hand in case I need it for something. And what I started doing is that writing down, and called writings, like write down anything I would think of. And then just go, okay, because, it's having it like, well, is this real or is this not real? Well, I'll just write thoughts. And I remember saying, well, when I was first doing it, I thought, well, let's see if I can do it. So I was in the park and there was a girl that was pregnant with her dog. And I said, excuse me, can I just ask you something or say something? This is what I do. And so I just went with the thoughts. It was my head. I said, I know it sounds weird, but I just wanted to see if it was real, what I was getting. And so that's just, it's practicing and just being in the place of trusting it. and
So,
going with your thoughts.
so what do you think about the movement or the trend of many people naming their animals human names and, like, and really kind of humanizing their pets? What do you think of that?
You know what I always find is names are interesting is because it's the same as mine. Because when I was a child, I didn't like that I had a male name, right? Because Dale was the only name there. But then as I, when I said to my mom, why? Like, couldn't I have had a more female name? And she said, but I liked it. And then as I grew older, I appreciated it, but it sort of developed who I was. And I feel the same with animals, is that they will let me know if they love their name or what their name means to them. And what's interesting sometimes is people will pick a name and then for some reason they'll have this thing like, I really have to check and see if there's another meaning. And there was one name that I did a while ago, and I said to the woman, do you know the meaning of this name? And she said, well, it's a movie, it's a song, it's a well-known something. So of course it's, and I said, well, actually, no, the meaning of the name, if you go into, I can't remember if it was from Japanese or something, it was new beginning. And I said, this dog actually, even though you gave it a well-known name, so a human name, it was actually new beginning. I said, which is what this dog's bringing you. So I always believe whatever they name their animal is usually what it should be. Now, the only thing I will say that is that there was a woman who had a horse that she rescued and the name was Garlic. And I said to her, oh my goodness, you need to do something with that. And she said, well, she got it from rescue, and every time when they get rescued, like a band of rescue horses in, they name them like, so this one was herbs, and one was, or spices or something. So one was ginger, one was salt, one was pepper. And I said, garlic. And I said, well, can you call it something like Garlic Girl or something cute? So she did that.
Oh, yeah.
But names are important to them too.
Yeah, I think my corgi that has passed on, I named him Corey the corgi, and so he had a sense of humor. I think he liked his little name. Like he played off of it with his personality.
Yeah, and they do get that, and that's where they sometimes will develop what their name is. Or it's weird is that I had one the other day. Oh, I know, it was the dog's name was Puzzle, and I said, how did you come up with this name? Because boy, did this dog match the name. I said, it was a puzzle in many ways. I said, you couldn't figure out his behavior and all this stuff. And she said, I just came up with it, but little did I know how it was going to be more the confusing side of the name.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I have really enjoyed this conversation. Is there anything else you would like to end with, or advice for people who are grieving or just have difficult pets? Sometimes people get new pets and they just don't know how to adjust to the energy of this new pet.
So I guess the thing I would say is always, so two things. For one, if people are grieving, know that it's actually the animal's choice. So let go of anything you might have a guilt or blame or regret thinking that you should have done more, because the animal will decide when it's going to let you know. And if it's going to let you know, so it's too fast, you can't make any decisions, or you need to do something. So they'll do that. And the other way is that if there's behavior issues, it's to look at, what is this animal showing me, right? Because I was dealing with a woman where the behavior changed, and I said, well, it's because what's going on in your life. So it's telling you that it's too much for you to deal with, so it's helping you, showing you need to make changes. So just always know that they're in our life for a purpose.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes do you think animals are not meant to be with us if we have too stressful of a situation or job and it's just not the right time, and they will choose to, be rehomed or replaced?
Sometimes they will go because they are not meant to be there because we're not ready to handle it that time. Other times they will be there and it'll make us do more stuff, so we'll have to do something about it. But it's always according to the person. Like I was working with one when I said, you're not ready. Like even when in all this time doing it, I probably had 3 people that really weren't ready to hear what was being shared. I said, well, you are just not willing to accept what they want to give you. And I said, so it's your choice. You can either take this wonderful lessons that this animal's bringing you, or you can just be in a place of just trying to fight the behavior and not learn from it. It's your choice, right? And so as you said, yeah, sometimes it's just not the right timing, or they're not ready, and they can have the animal and not just get all these wonderful things they're teaching us.
Oh, well, thank you so much for this conversation. It's really been a joy. I've loved it.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm always it's so interesting because when we have these intuitive abilities, it's always wonderful to meet someone else that has different abilities or some of the same ones, but also to hear your stories, because they are things for me. When I read yours, is I was actually able to use it just to say, like, hey, people have been through near-death experiences, and what it means, and just how amazing, what it's like. And so it's been able to help me understand it more too.
Oh, cool. Well, it was great meeting you. And for those of you who have listened to this conversation, please check out Dale's links below. And please, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because June and July, there's going to be so much going on. And I can't wait for the conference, which much of it will be streamed live on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th of July. But thank you again, Dale.
Thank you. Nice to see you.